So, you know, the first year of their government, tuition fees are going to be trebled, creating an elite system of education rather than a mass one. The education maintenance allowance, which has got so many people through education, you know, even £30 a week, that is invaluable to some of the poorest families, and it got me through education, and I can just see how much of a devastating impact it's having on people who have lost it now and their families. And it's just disgusting that they would attack the poorest and most vulnerable in such a way, and really shutting out and kicking away the ladder of opportunity for so many people. And I think it's really interesting as well that in this whole discussion, and we're seeing it now in the student movement, a lot of people have kind of lost their enthusiasm for something like a graduate tax, which really doesn't mean anything, a tax on students. And now there's a space for us to say exactly what we want for education, and that's education that's publicly funded, free to all and accessible to everyone, because actually we recognise that education, as has been said before, is not just a good thing abstractly. It's fantastic for the economy and actually is good for you know, people to develop themselves and empower themselves and liberate themselves in society. And that's why we should absolutely be marching on the 21st, and I'll come back to that later on. And we need a student movement that does really strongly and put forward exactly the reasons why we support investment in education. As Matt said before, for every £1 you spend in education, you get £2.60 back. It grows the economy, it's good for jobs, and it's good for people as well in society. I think one of the other things as well is that I got involved in the student movement through anti-war stuff, and you know, just knowing the fact that the cost of Trident is £2 billion a year, when actually that could fund free education for everyone, is absolutely shocking, and to me just shows exactly the warped priorities of the government when they're spending money on a system which can annihilate you know, hundreds of thousands of people, when actually we've got people who want to go to education but can't, and being priced out of it. So to me it's very clear that we should absolutely scrap Trident, and I think it was great the Fund Education at War session earlier, which really did highlight that and why we need to do it. So a constant theme of today as well, and what panellists have said, is that austerity is not working, but we should be absolutely clear. The policies of the Tory party are working exactly as they intend. They're attacking the poor and vulnerable, as they always do. Surprise, surprise. And you know, the groups that are being targeted as well. As was said before, women facing the highest levels of unemployment since the 80s, absolutely shocking. 1 million young people unemployed. Now we're seeing a new tax on women's rights to choose, with a tax on the time limit on abortion. We're seeing that LGBT vital welfare services are being scrapped 100% in some areas, absolutely disgraceful, and benefits that disabled people rely upon to, you know, exist in society. It's not a pleasurable experience being on benefits, but the government is quite happy to take them away and intent on making the lives of thousands and thousands of people absolutely miserable. And let's actually remember that the majority recipient of benefits are actually working people as well. So this idea that it's all this kind of feckless you know, youth is completely ridiculous. These are actually, when you cut benefits, you attack the majority of society. That's why it has to be opposed very strongly. And I just want to talk a bit more about kind of racism, because it is absolutely being whipped up by the government, and it is black communities, migrants, asylum seekers that are being scapegoated for crises that actually we never caused. So, you know, and this is part of the pattern that if you look across Europe, you know, you're seeing in Switzerland banning minarets, the attack on right to wear the niqab, you know, banning attempted bans of halal and kosher meat. Thankfully that failed. That was in the Netherlands. Ridiculous. And even we're seeing in Greece, who have had a massive struggle against austerity, the Golden Dawn far-right party is actually being debated with on television. Well, let me tell you exactly what that debate happened. How that unfolded. It resulted in a woman MP being punched in the face by a member of this disgusting fascist organisation, another one thrown water out of, and you know, the chair just sat there going, oh well, you know, what are we meant to do? Like, these are legitimate representatives. Like, absolutely not. Fascists, as Sabi said you know, earlier, stand for the annihilation and destruction of all those who stand for you know, freedom in society. And it's just really disgusting that we've got this weird culture in Europe where it says, oh, these people can be debated with. I'm so thankful here that in Britain it's actually a strength that we say no platform for fascists, no platform for the far right. I wanted to say as well about you know, what's happening just, you know, in Britain, and then I'm going to take it down to just what's happening on campuses. I mean, the English Defence League started a few years ago, and you know, are absolutely intent on whipping up hatred and fear of Muslims, and I think it's absolutely disgraceful that they are allowed to march, wherever they seem to please, often with, police protection, and some people say, just stay inside, just be scared of them. Absolutely not. We have to be outside, positively saying that we stand in solidarity with Muslim brothers and sisters. We're not going to let them be, attacked or feel under siege by people, and we're going to completely reject all forms of Islamophobia. So it's so important that even when, the EDL came to Waltham Forest, they got absolutely outnumbered, and they're coming back again, and they're going to have to learn the lesson again, that they're not welcome and their bigotry has no place in modern society. I wanted to say as well a bit about what's happening on campuses, and we've got a few people here actually who have fought against some of the things that are happening. But let's just remind ourselves that the student movement is definitely not immune from racism and bigotry. So this year alone we've seen attacks on Jewish students, Nazi-themed drinking games. We've seen blacking up on campuses, and I count 3 at the moment, but I'm sure there's more. I've just not heard of them. So at Leeds Metropolitan, Kanja, my predecessor, walks into a bar and finds a whole sports team blacked up. Absolutely disgusting. In Birmingham, president of a Christian society, no less, is found blacking up at a party. Disgusting. And at Loughborough, a sabbatical is found blacking up. Absolutely disgusting and shameful. And you just have to think that all of these things in the student movement, we can't think of ourselves as like different from the rest of society. We have to recognise that racism exists, sexism exists, homophobia, transphobia, disability discrimination exists, and we need a fighting movement that prioritises fighting oppression and all forms of it. And that's why I'm really proud to be a liberation campaigner and be involved in liberation campaigns, and obviously lead a section of it, which is great. Another thing as well is just touching it as well, because it's been one of the things that I've been doing a lot of work, and I know that a lot of people on this panel have been doing a lot of work on, and we had the President of London Metropolitan speak earlier. The situation at London Met, to me, just completely exemplifies everything that is probably wrong with the government. Economy, it's going down, recession's getting even worse. As I said before, surprise, surprise, let's just attack black people. Let's find, what's the most, what's one of the most diverse institutions? London Met, tick. International students, they're an easy target, who's going to really support them? We just say they're illegal immigrants anyway. These are the kind of things that are so vicious and sinister, and so when you have, as I said before in one of the sessions, people in tears because they're feeling that they're going to be thrown out of the country for something that's not their fault, we have to be exactly, we have to know exactly what the government is prepared to do. I'm really pleased that the student movement did manage to unite and oppose those attacks on international students, and now they are actually able to stay in the country. I think that's a fantastic victory, and does show that when the student movement organises and unites together, we can actually have positive outcomes and we can actually win things. We don't always have to be smashed, which is not fun. Just moving on as well, I wanted to talk about international peace and justice, and as I said before, I got involved in the student movement, particularly through anti-war work, and over the past few years, being on the NUS-NEC and being involved in the Black Students Campaign, I'm really pleased with the positions that we take in terms of opposing wars and Western intervention around the world. To me, I'm going to quote, it is Black History Month, so I think it's all justified. I think we should quote Martin Luther King more often. But so, as the panelist's already done it, Martin Luther King once said, "There comes a time when silence becomes betrayal." And I think this is so exemplified in the student movement, who are insistent of not talking about the oppression of the Palestinian people. And I think it's absolutely shameful that, for example, when Gaza is being bombed, there's gestures made towards the leadership of Israel and appeasement. It's just absolutely disgusting and shocking. And to sit in meetings where people go, we can't oppose the blockade, we can't call for the occupation to end, we can't support UN positions on supporting human rights in Palestine. To me, that's absolutely disgraceful. But because of the pressure of students and everyone in this room, we've actually forced them into position where they have to now recognise that Palestinians are suffering, that they're being oppressed, and that we need to do everything that we need to make steps at least to support them and their struggle. So to me, things are actually going in a positive direction. I just want to end on this. I'll just say, if you want to fight for free education, for international peace and justice, against racism, bigotry in all its forms, and you know you want to fight for a society in which people are treated with dignity and respect, then I absolutely urge you to get involved in the student movement. I urge you to get involved in Student Left, the National Black Students Alliance, who have helped organise this event today. And if you want a student movement that can stand up to the Tories, you know, we've got to be prepared to make alliances with many, many people and try and unite broadest forces possible to challenge the Tories every step of the way.